Hello, everybody. Welcome on the Lights on Data show. My name is George Firican, and today I'm so happy that we're tackling, I think, one of the most critical and timely topics in the world of AI compliance and risk management. Because as organizations across industries rush to adopt AI, they face that significant challenge, ensuring their AI applications are secure, compliant, aligned with regulatory standards, of course. I'm very excited to have Santosh Kaveti, the founder and CEO of ProArch. Welcome, Santosh.
Thank you so much, George. By the way, I love the name of your show, Lights on Data. So appropriate. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. You have an extensive experience in helping organizations in industries like power generation, manufacturing, healthcare, and of course to implement their AI strategies securely and at scale. And with your company, you're working closely with Microsoft to provide AI solutions that bridge that gap between cloud infrastructure and AI and cybersecurity and compliance. So I'm very happy again to have this session with you. And I want to dive right into it because as AI continues to evolve, the challenges surrounding compliance and risk management are also becoming more significant, especially in regulated industries. Maybe to start us off, what would you say are the main risks that businesses need to be aware of as they adopt AI technologies?
First of all, thank you, George. I'm again glad to share our experiences. And as you rightly said, AI adoption is increasing and increasing at a pace that I think it's actually difficult to manage. And the technology evolution is at a pace that's unfathomable. So definitely there are serious risks that organizations should understand and be prepared for as they go on this journey to operationalize data and AI securely. The operative word is securely. It's imperative to understand where the risks
Hmm.
are and what those risks are, right? I would categorize that in a few ways. Understand first your data risk. It's very difficult to operationalize AI without first operationalizing
Yes.
data again securely, right? Um, Understand your data risks. Without understanding the data risks, it's very difficult to understand the AI risks. Okay, it goes into the proper governance and strategy and protection of your data. Do you have a strategy? Do you have a governance? Do you have any protection mechanisms in place? Do you understand your risks? And do you understand the compliance that the risk that data poses? I think it's extremely important. I know your personal expertise is extensively in data protection, and you know this very well. Without really protecting the data, I can share several examples. It's very difficult to protect AI. Now, once you have a good data governance and strategy in place, then I would say understand your model risks. Okay. Now, AI itself leverages data extensively, but it comes with own set of risks. Okay, whether it is biases, whether it is fairness, whether it is hallucinations, whether it is lack of transparency and explainability. I think these things are extremely important. Imagine using AI where things are mission critical, things matter, decisions matter. Now, as we all know, the evolution of agentic framework, this even becomes
Mm.
more critical as you're letting agents, kind of decide and take an action, right? We always advise, at least now for now, the human in the loop concept, but the model itself comes with a set of risks. Okay, then understand your organizational risks, which are your people ready? Is the leadership ready? Do you have buy-in? Do you have a proper culture, change management, and comms strategies in place to manage all of this? So that's how I would project is understand your data risks, understand your model or AI risks, understand your organizational risk and your preparedness
Hmm.
risk. And that's a good way to put it, in my opinion, based on our
Yeah, no,
experience.
thank you so much, Santosh, for laying out very clearly. Would you say that then organizations need to tackle these risks sequentially or in parallel, all these three streams?
I think they can do it parallelly, but there are probably prerequisites. First step is to really tackle the organizational risks, in my opinion, because without executive buy in, without change management, without really strong calm strategy, things won't work the way you really want to work,
Hmm.
because adoption of a data, which AI needs data, and really leveraging the
Hmm.
data and AI understanding the risks. The culture of data and culture of AI has to become the DNA of the company, and that itself is a prerequisite.
Hmm.
Okay. Now there are, obviously everyone is using AI personally and in their capacity and at work as well. While there are things that you could do parallelly, my recommendation would be based on our experience. Tackle your organizational risks first, data risks, and then AI risks. You'll probably get a better ROI if you do it that way.
Thank you. What would you say are some of those key steps that you'd recommend that organizations take when they're embarking on that AI adoption? Of course, to mitigate that potential risk overall. And yes, you mentioned the data, the model, the organization. Are there any steps that you recommend that they would take on to ensure they're on the right path, especially from the compliance point of view?
Absolutely. Yeah, from our experience, George, I wouldn't suggest trying to boil the
Hmm.
ocean. I would suggest have the vision of implementing AI across the company, but start somewhere where you start in a function or a department, or pick a workflow across your functions. And in fact, I like it that way. Pick a process where you will see the most benefit, and make sure that you have the right people. Meaning, is there an executive buy-in or a sponsor? Is there a person who understands the compliance requirements really well? You, of course, need data stewards and data owners, and really get deeper into how are you labeling, classifying, and categorizing data. So you can train your business owners to do that, but the domain specific knowledge becomes super important
Hmm.
in order for you to be really successful in this approach. So the steps I would take is have a small team, and that comprises of data stewards, data owners, and then an AI engineer or a workflow engineer is what I would call it. I foresee this role becoming very common. AI workflow engineer who can apply AI to your current process, and someone who understands the compliance very well. Like if you have a compliance officer, that is what a really good team is. Pick a process. Of course, you will. What we have done, we actually have an AI readiness or a smart start program, is what we call it, where we help our customers. And you can create a use case of inventory. AI inventory management is becoming a big deal now. How do you prioritize? I'm not going to go into the details of that now, but once you prioritize, once you pick a use case, start with something small, go through the journey, see the success of the adoption, see the results, and then expand from there on. That's
Hmm.
what I would suggest based on our experience.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation. And you're right, because uh, sometimes people are also skeptical, right? And the fact that it's being introduced as a change, even if it's towards their benefit, they'll be reticent to adopt it. They'll be like, well, I don't like this. And it helps when you have that success story. And then you get those champions that were impacted beneficially by it, and they can voice up and get other people on board, and then people get excited and, okay, well, let's expand, let's add it to this other process now, or let's implement AI here and there. I like that.
I think I do have one suggestion there. That's a great point that you're making. My suggestion would be not to look at AI just as, hey, I'm gonna implement something and that'll save me some
Hmm.
money. AI efficiency, mindset is good. I'm not going to dispute that. Okay, every company will have that, but I would say go beyond that and have an opportunity mindset. The way I see it is leveraging AI, you can introduce value to your teams and to your customers unlike ever before. I think that's a big cultural shift, and that's what we should look at it. This is not about just gaining efficiencies. Yes, we can gain efficiencies, but you can go much beyond that with the capabilities that AI currently brings. I just wanted to point that
I
out.
love that. Yeah, so it's not about what it's automated, it's about the opportunities that it's bringing on board. Even for those people that
Absolutely.
used to do the whatever process that it was now impacted by AI, it's what can those people do now? Of course, they might need to get upskilled, but yeah, I love that, and that's definitely a lot more optimistic and positive, and it's serving the organization better this way too. Yeah.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with
And
that.
of course, again, we need to come back to the compliance piece because there's always
Yes,
compliance challenges, and
absolutely.
working in industries like healthcare and power generation in particular, the stakes are high in terms of compliance. Do you find there any particular challenges then with these industries and what these industries are facing when implementing AI and how they could address that?
Yes.
I know it's a loaded
So,
question.
um,
Sorry.
um, well, it's. I'll take some examples. We have a number of healthcare customers, from providers to, insurance companies. So when you're applying AI, I think they are very regulated, and the compliance is a serious business for these companies. Let's say I'll give you an example. In one case, we're leveraging a Gen AI for patient care. Now, it's not necessarily to prescribe. There's definitely human in the loop, but to summarize, take
Mm,
notes, and make the process more efficient. Now, as the AI risk model, if you look at the parameters, right? AI, as we know, can hallucinate, and we already know lots of examples where AI detected incorrectly, based on biases. Have a framework in place, and that's how we help our customers too, where you can set thresholds based on the accuracy, the context, precision that you need, and the compliance that you need. Again, HIPAA, we all know, is a big deal for healthcare kind of. Is your AI application HIPAA compliant? Is your AI application? I know there is a EU AI Act.
mhm,
States in the US are beginning to have their own acts. There will be executive orders in the future, of some sort. Make sure that you can certify your AI application to make sure it's compliant. And underneath that, of course, means having a proper testing framework or a quality assurance framework. I'll give you one more example. In one case, we were able to cleverly, using prompt injection, make a Gen AI application share, PHI, PII. Now knowing that AI can be used and your attack surface, just increased exponentially, is very important. Then you
mm,
need to know, how do I test this? How do I make sure that I'm compliant? And make sure that you have that expertise. Make sure that you know how to do that proper quality assurance to make sure your application is compliant. And that's going to only expand further. The regulation is not going away. It's one way to for the market to earn trust.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and it all starts with that data piece as well, right? You need to have that visibility, data lineage, seeing how it's feeding the model itself. Would you say that maybe a tool like a machine learning metadata store would help? I mean, among other things, you probably do need a lot of other tools too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So metadata management is essential. It's becoming even more important with application of
Hmm.
AI. I would say, you know, making sure that you have role-based access, some fundamentals. Making sure that you can classify and label your data. As an example, because we're a Microsoft partner, we use Purview, and Microsoft is investing in Purview extensively, just for this reason. And what's interesting, George, is in the past, data security and data privacy were conversations that we would have with, like a CIO or a IT department or a CISO.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. In a way, it's a good thing. We're now having that conversation with business owners, because AI just kind of, really exposed the vulnerabilities there. And the chance of something happening now is definitely increased. But going back to what I was saying, you have your data, labeling, classification, categorization
Mm,
right. Then make sure that you can track the lineage, you can track your transformations, you can track the usage. It would be wonderful to take one piece of data, and I always imagine this creating an animation of something like a SSN, and going through the entire transformational journey that it goes through, and see how the protection layers, what tools can be used to protect it, what transformation, what application usage. It would be good to have that view of your, especially with your sensitive data and PII data, and metadata management is extremely important now in the context of AI.
Hmm. Thank you. Especially with those teams that are implementing AI, the data scientists, if you will, I do feel they have a mindset of risk awareness around what they're building, putting together. I mean, hopefully, but how can organizations make sure they're expanding that culture globally? Because even those end users, they definitely need to have this understanding of compliance, of risk awareness when it comes to AI. And even if it's, you know, when Google was introduced, we knew how to use it efficiently. When email was introduced, even before that, right, we knew, okay, well, you shouldn't put any confidential information if you're a healthcare practitioner and things like that. Or, you had processes to be able to mitigate that. But now with AI, somebody could also go and use their chat GPT or Claude or what have you. And maybe there's not as much awareness around its risks. Do you have any recommendations on how companies can build this culture overall for all of their employees around that compliance and risk awareness when it comes to AI?
Yes, we do. We and you rightly said it, right. I mean, we work with a lot of power and utilities companies, and they're beginning to make some critical decisions based on what models are telling them, whether it is auto dispatching of power, whether it is sometimes not deciding not to produce as much as they thought they need to produce, or not to buy, not to trade. These are all decisions that will impact the entire industry, and they're controlled by NERC as one of the compliance. Of course, NIST is another
Mm,
compliance. I mean, the compliance is there. So for development side, my strong recommendation is, in your DevOps, security has to become part of it every step of the way. Security is not something that, hey, I will test at the end of the day. I'll have a few use cases that I'm just going to run through and test.
mhm,
Okay. Security, whether the entire DevOps cycle, security has to become a key consideration right from the use case and requirements all the way till release management. That is the only way. It has to become part of the DNA. I know it's easier said than done, but there are really good ways to do it. First of all, upskilling, making sure that all the devs are upskilled and certified from security perspective, and they have that mindset, is extremely important. We help with companies in banking like PCI compliance, and if we
mhm,
develop applications, our developers really need to understand the importance of compliance there,
mhm,
and lack of, so the upskilling and education comms, comms, as I always would say, 90% is really education and comms. If you look at the AI and how to DevOps of AI, it's unlike anything else. It's not your typical software development process. It's not your typical even data process. You can't test AI application like using the traditional ways of managing the quality or quality assurance. You have to rethink it completely. We've developed some models and solutions where we use concepts like quality gates based on the risk compliance levels, how to how to imbibe the security and compliance into the entire development life cycle of application. That's the only way. Essentially, make it part of your culture, make sure your teams are upskilled, security and compliance is on their mind every step of the way, and they actually take action based on that.
mhm. I'm very curious because I've never really worked in the energy sector with, let's say, with power plants. Is it that their environment overall, from a data perspective, their data environment is a bit more localized, so they don't make as much use of cloud environments, just to try and reduce that risk and things are on site, or am I just off target there with that assumption?
Historically, you are absolutely right. Historically, most power plants, the way they managed is on-prem.
Hmm.
Okay, so if their assets are categorized two ways. They have OT assets and they have IT assets. Okay, the both of them, are segmented completely. They are not. There are some in DMZs, but still, for the most part, they're on-prem. But now, well, they're finding themselves as they use applications, as they use AI, and as they use modern work, productivity tools, that there are, elements that are exposed to cloud that they don't have a choice but to embrace. So they need to live in this zone now where yes, some things are connected to cloud, and now they have to worry about how to
Mm.
manage that. Okay, even on prem, what we've seen is that lack of visibility into their OT network, lack of proper monitoring and management of their OT assets from security perspective. Everyone has gotten better in managing their IT assets and securing them from compliance perspective. OT, I think there is still a long way to go. It's a work in progress. Because you're talking about legacy instrumentation, SCADA instrumentation, a number of legacy PLC devices running on old protocols. Not even some of them you probably won't classify as IoT, but in some sort they're all devices
Hmm.
emitting
Hmm.
data. So there are vulnerabilities. Vulnerability management is and visibility and understanding how are they managing and patching, and then understanding their vulnerabilities continues to be a big risk. And as I said, they're all regulated by like low, medium, high. High is like nuclear. I'm sure high is definitely much more regulated, but there is still a room for improvement in terms of how OT and IT assets, and then bringing the data together. Now they're beginning to not only protect the data but bring the data together. That's where they're having to decide what goes into cloud and what stays on prem. They're taking a hybrid approach, and because they are now beginning to write applications on top of the data that's coming from the telemetry of OT, the market data, the consumer data, the weather data, and start making real decisions on, okay, how much power should I produce? Should I turn on my turbine? Should I turn on my thermal plant? Should I, how where am I and what's the peak?
Hmm.
And also then decide on trading decisions. And these are very impactful decisions. So as they go into this path of now looking at the data, and that's where cloud comes into play, and they are beginning to understand, okay, the risks are higher than what we thought. How do we manage that?
Thank you. Thank you. And Santosh, lastly, as AI regulations are changing and AI compliance is shifting, how can your company, ProArch, help organizations to best prepare for all of these things?
That's what we do. Our singular objective is to make sure that we operationalize data and AI securely. Wherever they are in their journey, we've seen some companies, the maturity of handling their data being low,
Hmm.
and even companies which, well, we've had a proper processes, they have governance in place, but they don't know if it's efficient, if it's really working, and they don't know what their risks are, how to quantify a risk. That's a big topic too, like how do I really quantify the risk, how do I make sure that I have all the security controls in place that I can manage the risk. Okay. Sometimes it's as simple as, do I even have the cyber insurance that matches my risk appetite? And does it really cover it when I need it? We help with all of these things, including making sure that their users are trained, educated, and go on this journey. Especially with working to productivity tools like Copilot, it's becoming essential to have a proper governance and strategy.
Hmm.
So you have an AI governance and strategy, then you lay out your data governance and strategy, then you lay out your AI governance and
Right.
strategy, and that's what we help with.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for being on the Lights on Data show and putting the lights on AI compliance and risk management. I really appreciate it and all of your insights.
Thank you so much for having me, George.
Thank you, Santosh.